Hi, my name is Dan Hooked. I'm the president of Party Reflections here in Charlotte, North Carolina. At Party Reflections, we have a wide variety of tent alternatives. You can go anything from a basic backyard frame tent, which is the most adaptable to the surfaces and adaptable to your event, all the way up to a structured tent, which is made for more large sporting events or nonprofit galas, that kind of thing, where you can hang a lot more equipment. So it just depends on the type of uses that you're using the tent for. That will dictate exactly what style tent you should be looking for. And anything in between, from aesthetics to logistics to more the function of the tent. It all depends on what your needs are to guide you into what type of tent that you really need. The style tents that we offer start with a frame tent, which is your most versatile, your most adaptable to the surfaces. They can be connected to one another to provide much more coverage. You can connect her to a building, used as a walkway or a corridor. A lot of different uses for that. Do have an internal framework, so it's a metal frame with a vinyl covering over top, so you can hang items from it, chandeliers, floral arrangements, that type of thing. Draping, they're very easy to drape. Those are your standard type tents that you'll see most of. Parties, galas, festivals, all that kind of stuff. From there, you would go to something if you wanted to do a little more aesthetic. We have a sailcloth tent. So a sailcloth tent is a pole tent. So you will have your center poles that you see. Sailcloth is different because it's all wooden poles. So it has that natural farm aesthetic to it for outdoor parties. Not as great from a standpoint of weather conditions. They don't hold up as great in weather conditions, but under normal circumstances, you're fine. Then you would go to a pole tent, a strictly pole tent, which is also with center poles, but aluminum poles that would support the fabric. Now with pole tents, you do have to have a particular type surface to put that on, because you will have to stake that into the asphalt, stake it into grass. Whatever you can do to anchor it, you can use that. You cannot use concrete anchors on a pole tent. You can only use concrete anchors on a frame tent. So therefore, if you're putting it on concrete or asphalt and you don't want to stake into it, a frame tent is what you would use, because then you can anchor it without having to stake it into the ground. Obviously, before we stake anything into the ground, we do have a service that comes out, 811, and makes sure that we're not staking into anything that would be dangerous to you or your guests, electrical lines, gas lines, water lines, that kind of thing. We can't really probe for irrigation systems. That's something we will talk to the guests themselves or the planner to make sure we know where things are in the yard, so we avoid those. But most things we would like to stake if we can, just because we know we're getting a good hard surface to stake into, and it gives you that much more safety factor when it comes to the tents that you're using. So from that point, you would go next to a structure tent, which is a frame tent on steroids, the way we like to say it, because basically it's a metal frame tent, aluminum, with large spans in between. So we can go anywhere from 20 feet wide up to 100 feet wide and not have any internal poles. And those can be made any length up to 400, 500 feet. I mean, you just go as far as you want to go. So we have done tents as small as 100 square feet, or tents as big as 40,000 square feet. So depends on what size your event is and how along those lines you're going will dictate what style tent that you need. Especially if you're trying to cover large surfaces, your structures or your pole tents are going to be the way to go. Pole tents are going to be less expensive per square foot. So if you are on a budget, sometimes a pole tent can be a better opportunity, but the structures will allow you to do so much more and really make it a venue outside with the use of a tent, because we can even floor it, use air conditioning to make sure it's HVAC compatible, environmental controlled. So there's a lot of different ways you can do this, and it all depends on your budget. It all depends on what the space is giving you. We also offer clear tops and white tops for your particular events. Now, obviously a clear top is not going to be the greatest solution for an event June through September, let's say, but it's a great spring or late fall, winter type event where you can look up and see the stars and get some really dramatic feel for the tent inside that environment. The white tops will actually keep the temperature underneath the tent about 15 to 20 degrees cooler, so that your guests are more comfortable, even with or without HVAC or environmental controls. But we do allow both, and on some tents, our frame tents or our structure tents, you can literally have both. You can have a combination of white and clear, so that you can have clear over top of the dance floor because it's going to be later in the evening, and white over top of dinner because the sun's still up. So there's a lot of different options you can have. So we'd be glad to talk to you about all those type of alternatives.